so much. The first piece that I'm reading is from a collection of what I was calling ethnographic fiction called Iceland in Other Words, which was launched a few weeks ago, just before Christmas. And this short story is called Survival Tips. I'm glad you like it. Outside, the snow is relentless, but in here, where it's warm, we can pretend all's well, for now. The coffee machine takes its time, dripping into the urn. The switch light blinks red, meaning it's not ready. I consider what to do instead of simply waiting. Maybe put out the biscuits or open a fresh carton of oat milk. But I continue waiting. It's this cold weather that encourages lethargy. It's not yet Klukkenfim, but already the sun has set and the snow clouds mean we've been in twilight gloom all day. I'm in a community hall kitchenette. In the main hall, a choir sings, but instead of joining them, I'm listening for the gurgle of the coffee machine to end. I have this same watery coffee in the mornings, made by my host, the elderly woman I'm living with. I've been renting a room from her for 3 months. In summer, the room is an Airbnb, but during winter I pay her in cash. She's polite, though she never invites me to watch TV with her in the living room or sit with her in the dining room while we eat. I eat at the small table in the kitchen. She always warns me about life here in Iceland. Do you know, she says, for many years a major cause of death in Iceland was að vera úti, to be outside. She reminds me of this every morning when she decides my scarf is not thick enough or my gloves are too threadbare. In the evenings, she pours herself a shot of brennivin in the kitchen. She'll gladly tell me all the reasons I'd die in Iceland. I'm never wearing enough layers, she says, or I'll crash my car on the Icelandic roads. But I tell her it's probably winter depression that'll do me in. Ah, she nods. The key to surviving that is to keep the soul warm. And for that, she says, there are 5 survival tips. Tip 1, exercise. Get out and move, she tells me. Outside, I ask, where you just told me I might die. She laughs like I'm a silly child. The red light of the coffee machine keeps blinking, and the choir keeps singing. I'm standing in the kitchenette in an extension of the main hall. The walls look flimsy and old, and as the wind blows strong outside, the whole building is creaking. I take some comfort reminding myself that these old walls have withstood snowstorms for at least 50 years. I tap the top of the coffee maker as it gurgles out its last drops. Everything will be fine. Tip 2, join a choir. You'll meet people, my landlady tells me, and singing is good for the soul. So I went to the local community centre for the local choir's next meetup. We only sing in Icelandic, the choir master told me. Come back when you've learned it. I optimistically told him I'd come back in a year. But I turned up the following week for rehearsals instead, and I've been going ever since. Tip 3, cod liver oil. I have a spoonful of it every morning, and I'm still alive, my landlady assures me, and I cannot argue with her reasoning. This is the 6th week I've turned up to the choir uninvited. The first was awkward. I sat toward the back of the main hall while the choir practiced, and I sang along as best as I could, quietly and in an unfamiliar language. The choir master told me I was being a distraction, though he didn't tell me to leave outright, so I pretended to be busy in a back room restacking chairs that were already stacked. When the choir departed, the choir master came to me in the storeroom. You make too much noise, he told me. Next time, busy yourself in the kitchen or something. Tip 4, Sundlaugina, the swimming pool. Go 3 or 4 times a week at least, my host prescribes me. Isn't this the same as the first tip I ask, getting exercise? The pool's not for swimming, it's for talking, and the spa is for warming the bones. The second week I turned up at the choir practice, I did as the choir master asked. I made the coffee and the tea. I brought biscuits and laid them out in concentric circles on a plate. I put out the milk, found sugar beside a dusty old bottle of brennivin in a back cupboard. Preparing everything took me about 10 minutes. For the last 50 minutes of rehearsal, I spent in the kitchenette, a wall between me and the choir, and I sang along quietly. I figured this way I could participate without being irritating. Usually after practice is over, they all come milling into the kitchenette. Some smile at me in greeting, but most seem not to notice me. They drink the coffee, they eat the biscuits. They mumble to each other in Icelandic, working up the fortitude to brave the elements. Soon they're all gone, even the choir master, while I stay back cleaning up the mess. Tip 5, according to my host, is brennivin, Iceland's paint remover branded as liquor. Nothing warms the soul like a little ship, she assures me, usually as she drinks a shot in her kitchen. She does not offer me a glass. The light on the coffee machine has stopped blinking and now remains a solid red. I switch it off and pull out the urn. I look at the weather outside and think, it's brutal out there. I think, I'm glad I'm not at vera uti right now. I think, maybe I need to heed my host more closely to follow her 5 tips. In the kitchen cupboard, I find that dusty bottle of brennivin. It doesn't occur to me that it might be out of date. The stuff never gets any worse than when you buy it. Before I seal the coffee urn, I pour a little of the brennivin in, not to get them drunk, just enough to warm their souls. And the next piece is a little piece that is one of 2 pieces that's getting published in the Ospressan Journal this year. It's called Traces. I still feel it, your finger tracing letters on my back. We were young the first time we played this game, sitting cross-legged on the carpeted floor of the classroom, neck tilted up at the board, teacher droning on. The class was stiflingly hot, the ceiling fan rotating quickly but doing little to circulate the air. My shirt clung to my skin where you traced a word. The word you wrote was your name. When I guessed it right, you laughed. We played this game many times during class. Whispered messages spoken in touch alone. I'd close my eyes and listen. Try passing meaning of things I didn't yet understand. I'd guess wrong on purpose, just so you'd try again. Sometimes your messages were funny, sometimes strange or mysterious. Sometimes it was just your name, and these times pleased me most. Between classes we spoke in words, ordinary words said aloud. They were insufficient, hollow. We could say nothing with words we hadn't already said without them. Years passed by, you stopped playing the game, and so I stopped asking for it. In our teens, we moved apart. We'd be in touch from time to time, but this became infrequent. Your responses to my messages became briefer until they were one word, and then nothing at all. Like the tracing of your finger on my skin, the feeling faded too quickly and was gone. I imagine how you might be now. I imagine who I might have become if we hadn't drifted apart. What might have been said in our language of touch. The more years that pass, the less I recall your face, the less I think of you. Other things have happened, other people. But I remember our game, the feeling of my shirt on my skin, and your finger imprinting me. Unheard words spoken from so far away and so long ago, traces of you have stayed with me. Thank you.